We only got it from a limited time, ladies and gentlemen. He was a big inspiration of sorts of giving me some sort of a black pill or just opening my eyes up to things that were right in front of our face and kind of put me on the right tracks to do the reporting I did about COVID. And in fact, I was able to do some great reporting on my personal patting myself on the back. You might not have seen a lot of it because why? We couldn't talk about it on YouTube. They took us down. They censored us. But there's been some breakthroughs out there. I've been going on this guy's show on Wednesdays for the last month and a half. If you want to go check him out, he is a host of TNT, and he's also the top of the ladder when it comes to the Bermas Brigade. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Jason Bermas, is here.
Thank you for having me, Pastor. Really appreciate you, brother.
I'm glad you finally got a chance to stop by and come on the show. So yesterday I was on your show, and every week we like to talk about something maybe a little bit different. We, go from geopolitics to electoral politics to sometimes COVID politics. And yesterday we had a big breakthrough, and I did a lot of the talking, so I wanted you to come on today to get your thoughts on the Kansas Attorney General suing Pfizer over the Kansas Consumer Protection Act. And for those out there who are going to be, what do you mean you're going to sue them? They have qualified immunity. Yes, they do have qualified immunity when it comes to the damage that can be done from the boop itself, but they don't have immunity over misleading the public and lying. And this is going to be a 5-state lawsuit. Idaho will be joining. Texas is already out in front. You now have Kansas. What do you think about this, Jason? I wanted to get your personal opinions because there's a lot of us out there, right, who couldn't talk about this stuff years ago. We got taken down. I mean, man, was YouTube trolling you on their channel? You've been demonetized for quite some time. We've been able to keep our channel, but we don't make any funds on it, and it's kind of weird. I started on my Pasta to Go show, Jason, right out of the gate, nice and strong. I was coming off Jimmy Dore. I'd done this work in Hawaii. We're still waiting on the second documentary, which I'm going to talk to you guys about at the end of the show. But I came out of the gate roaring. But then I got censored one night for having the Tucker Putin episode up there and giving my opinions on the interview itself between Tucker and Putin. They took us off midstream twice. And ever since then, I felt like I'm just banging my head up against the wall. This comes out yesterday. Part of the lawsuit, Jason, they wanted to focus on the fact that they used Pfizer's own data against them in this lawsuit, the way they said it was safe for pregnancy. No, it wasn't. They said it would work on different variants. No, it didn't. They said it would stop the transmission of COVID-19. You remember that the whole mainstream media did that. They didn't even do studies and tests on that Pfizer, Jason, but they're also in this lawsuit going at Pfizer for their censorship, their relationship between big tech and the government and the mainstream media and how they control this information and didn't allow it to get out there, just rational thought. They didn't let doctors to be doctors. You're at the top. You're on the front line when it comes to the censorship stuff here, Jason. What are your thoughts yesterday or a couple days ago, when Kansas, the Attorney General, Chris Kobach, had a press conference? What are your thoughts now that we see this coming out and the possibility of maybe changing up the whole system, baby? Go ahead.
I don't know about changing up the whole system, but I will say this. Obviously, a net positive that we have now gone in the direction where we have court systems that are acknowledging that information was falsified and we were outright lied to. Let's start there. Problem is that, let's go back to the censorship issue, right? I was censored on my channel prior to the COVID-19 84 nightmare. A lot of people forget that they were censoring. If you talked about a guy named Eric Caramello Bar, I'm still going to reference him there. Who knows? Maybe they're going to get you for the old Chiaramella. But if you remember that, you couldn't say that person's name. They were banning you from YouTube.
Who was that exactly? Explain to the audience who that was.
So Eric, let's just say Eric Chiaramella was a person of interest, and he was a name that was thrown out there as a quote-unquote whistleblower for the first Trump impeachment. And the media, again, talk about fake news, ran cover for this guy. They made him into a mark, said it wasn't him, just outright, again, lied, which they continue to do. Problem is, you just said some things I still won't even say on my channel. Why? YouTube is still openly aligned with the World Health Organization and whatever great narrative they are projecting. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. If you have enough of an audience, you can still say things on YouTube others cannot. And if you have a certain audience, you can also be monetized where others cannot. And that's just a fact, Jack. The littler guys, they're going to continue to pounce on and go after and after and after and after because they know that you don't have the resources to do so. So I'll liken it to this. This is a good doorway, but at the same time, right, just like we saw these hearings with Fauci and others, there was one side that was presenting the truth of the argument. And I hate to make it about left or right, because neither side is perfect. So many bent the knee on both ends. That was playing things that Anthony Fauci had said in the past, that was calling him out on communications and emails. And there was literally another side that was thanking him for his science to this day. So we're still really in a weird limbo place with all of this. And as you stated, the COVID-19 84 nightmare is just one thing. You're really not allowed to weigh in whatsoever on the V word in general, right? The old boop boop, no matter what flavor they want to give you. And, it's funny. Today, I was actually talking about the censorship, kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff. You were talking about how you weren't naming your videos the things you should have been naming them, and now you can't find them in the archives just because of the censorship. Well, I'll take it a step further. Today, I was really going in deep on the CureVac relationship to Elon Musk. A lot of people don't know about, right? And the reason was, a couple weeks ago when I hosted InfoWars, I played my presentation for the Reawake America tour on transhumanism, which had a pretty good section on Musk. And somebody in the comments section, and I wish it was in better resolution because I would have just used that, but it was in this weird format where Musk is in the bio nanotech factories and he's sitting there in a blue mask with the media surrounding them, promoting this technology and these shots in general. So I'm going to find that raw video. I found the articles where you can see him in front of it, and you can see him arriving and the whole nine. But there are actually articles about how Musk himself scrubbed his own Twitter feed in regards to some of this technology after the fact. And by the way, I'm looking into it right now, Pasta, but it appears that CureVac and Tesla's partnership may have begun before the COVID-19 84 nightmare in 2019, which would be an extremely interesting coincidence, my friend.
So there are so many questions I have right there for you right now that we can talk about. Wow, I'm finishing my thoughts because I don't want to forget about this. First of all, I put up a tweet right now, and I'm just going to just show this really, really quickly, and then we'll kind of continue to do what we're doing. I put up, which category do you think YouTube prioritizes when it comes to their censorship, demonetization, and deplatform decisions? And I put anti-Semitism, which we all know is really not anti-Semitism. I had a hard time. Should I put anti-Semitism or pro-Hamas? Because they kind of conflate those. It's really anti-Zionism, right? Pro-Putinism, which is not really pro-Putinism. It's anti-intervention. It's anti-proxy war. It's anti-support of the CIA doing color revolutions. Medical misinformation, who Matt Weinglass, a lefty, homeless left, which, this is why, I know you have a history of Matt Taibbi back in the days when it comes to 9/11, but I'd like to have a serious conversation with Matt Taibbi. I think the Brianna Joy Gray kind of questioning was a little bit flawed. She didn't really know where to ask. She didn't know the right questions, but they try to portray the first Twitter files as just the populist right getting censored. It's not a left or right battle. It's an up or down battle. We know this. So the medical misinformation there, we can put that out there because you're looking at a guy on the left who was also censored for saying the I word, ivermectin, and of course, repeating the big lie, which is probably another reason why I think repeating the big lie is what really put me on intense on their radar. Maybe pro-Putinism because of Fiorella and her ties to Russia and stuff. But the big lie, which we know is what the squad and all made up, that you can't talk about election integrity. My first question to you is this, though, Jason, and you can take this anywhere you want. Do you think you were already on a watched list because of your work on talking about 9/11? about talking about Epstein? Did that already bring the red flags up? Because once again, when we talk about 9/11, exposing the truth there, that goes against the military-industrial complex. You only have to look at Julian Assange to see that if anybody exposes the truth about what the military does, they're coming after your ass no matter what, and they'll make sure you die in jail. Or Epstein, which was tied into the fact that it was tied into some of the biggest names out there, from the Clintons to the Prince Charles. Even Donald Trump has ties, small, to Epstein. But, I mean, they're out there. Epstein ties to Bill Gates. I mean, do you think that they were already watching you there because of what you had talked about before, which is very important to point out, Jason, because we need to understand what areas the censorship is coming from, because if we understand where and what areas, if we understand the what, we'll understand the who, right? So please continue.
Yeah, no, I would be shocked if I wasn't on some sort of a list right after Loose Change. I mean, we were in mainstream publications shortly after that. I had a relationship with Alex Jones where he became the producer of Loose Change Final Cut. I also was the first guy at InfoWars to have his own show there. So if I'm not on site, and plus, you know, my documentary films have been found in numerous Fusion Center documents, things like Loose Change, even Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist takes pieces of Loose Change and puts it in there. I would be shocked because, you know, back in the day, in the very beginning, when Loose Change started to go viral and the internet was a lot more open, right? I was allowed to have a Wikipedia page. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people were dissing me on it, whatever. Now I'm not even allowed to have that. And I remember some of the internal documents that came out via Wikipedia, for instance, Luke Radowski and We Are Change. They had also had a Wikipedia page that was taken down as well. And the thing with Luke was they actually had to reference him in some of the emails because he had some of the firsthand video that had been cited on another page. And they were asking the question if they could reference We Are Change at all. And that shows you the level of censorship, you know, a decade and a half ago. That channel was having videos taken down left and right. And by the way, my channel, it's not just the COVID-1984 stuff. A large swath of my Epstein reporting has been taken down retroactively via cyberbullying, one of which happened just a month ago. And quite frankly, you know, like today, I posted my piece on Conor McGregor and the latest revelations that the woman who really, it's not even an accusation. I'm just going to say it like this. The woman who was hospitalized for weeks after an encounter with Conor McGregor that she says was absolutely non-consensual, and he told police was consensual, and they refused to bring that case in court, which is just overwhelming, and they're scared this is going to, you know, come out. Basically, she was supposed to have her day in civil court in April. His fight postponed that, okay? It was supposed to happen after the fight. Now, last week, everybody heard that McGregor had pulled out of that fight, and they said it was due to an injury. I'm just going to let people know that literally within hours before that announcement, this woman and her boyfriend and her son suffered a home invasion where her boyfriend was stabbed in the belly. Stabbed in the belly. So I posted that this morning. You know, Pasta, I've kicked and screamed for the 70,000 subscribers that I have. I was not able to break 100 live viewers on that platform. And the funny thing is, even though I'm demonetized, more and more I'm seeing them put ads on my videos anyway that I don't make any money from. So it's a rigged system, unfortunately. And really, you have to look at Google not as a private company and not even as a technopoly, but really an arm of the intelligence apparatus, because that's what it is. It's part of the military-industrial complex.
That's a very interesting point. Let's talk a little bit more about why the big names. Okay. See, I want to point this out because I think this is what the ruling class fears. And this even ties into RFK and the whole 9 yards, right? When I was at Defeat the Mandates, it was amazing. I was able to cover, DC as a journalist. Me and Fiorella were there. When we went to LA, I was able to speak. Fiorella wasn't there. She was out of the country, but I was able to then MC. Like, they gave me a bigger role. When months later, I was back in DC for Rage Against the War Machine. And I saw one of the promoters from Rage Against the War Machine in the after hours party at, in one of the promoters of Defeat the Mandates, one of the organizers who Defeat the Mandates was there at the Rage Against the War Machine. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? He goes, there was 4 of you guys who spoke at Defeat the Mandates, only 4 of you who also spoke against Rage Against the War Machine. If I can find a way to merge these 2 audiences together, right? And now this is taking people who are anti-imperialist, Rage Against the War Machine, left libertarians and anti-imperialist lefts, the Max Blumenthal's, the Jimmy Dores, the Kim Iversons, myself. Those are the 4 who spoke at Rage Against the War Machine that also spoke at Defeat the Mandates as far as leftists are concerned, right? Okay. The libertarians, Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, Scott Horton, Dave Smith wanted to come. Clint Russell joined in, the Jackman brothers, all those people. And then you get when you talk about Defeat the Mandates, you talk about, all the FLCC doctors, the Pierre Corys, the Dr. Merricks, all these people. They were trying to find a way to merge this together. And when you talk about RFK, he actually split that right there. You know what I'm saying? He split the anti-establishment movement. But what I'm trying to say is that group right there, they want to make sure that they can smash that group because it really transcends left and right. And then you have some of these big names out there who really never faced the censorship for talking about the same things that is we said one word about, Jason. Boom, we're gone. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't do any COVID videos on YouTube, and I'm looking forward to doing them now because I'm going to make them take me down if that's what they want to do by reporting mainstream media news now. Because now it's okay to talk about these things, right? Why aren't the big names? Why don't they go after the big names? And why do they go after the small names? I think it's important to explain that to the audience, Jason, so they can understand the mechanism in play because there's something to it. It's almost like when they get a child young at school, the programming and conditioning starts young. Same thing over here. They make you self-censor or they take you down. What are your thoughts?
Well, by amplifying consistently anti-authoritarian voices that, correctly call what is going on, then game over, right? If you had for instance, when Google was competing with YouTube, because a lot of people forget this, Google Video directly competed with YouTube because YouTube was really part of like a tech revolution where if you made something and people came, you could become rich. Okay, that really was a group of kids on their own, no fake seed funding or anything. Google, on the other hand, was a company that was seed funded by the Central Intelligence Agency through In-Q-Tel. I want to make that very clear. But at the same time, what was it? It was don't be evil. The search engine was very open. They were getting into other arenas, and they started Google Video, where you could put up to a 4-hour video. Okay. Now, on YouTube at the time, it was a 10-minute max unless you had a director's account and you had to apply for it. Very few people had that. So one of the ways that YouTube really got absorbed by Google Video was that Google Video allowed things like my film, Loose Change, to go super mega viral. We were in the top 10. It was what people were watching. Not only in the top 10, sometimes up to 8 times where people had put it into different languages, right? So then they come in, and then they buy YouTube for like $8 billion. Now, this is where you start seeing the national security apparatus kind of call in the favor. Okay. Now they've got the largest, not only search engine in the world, but they've got the largest video platform in the world, which is the second largest search engine in the world. And this is right around the same time that the Magic devices are being launched. And again, they're very smart. When they launched Android, it was an open system, right? Just like Don't Be Evil, they were encouraging you to tinker with your device, to unlock your device, to go in and mod it, right? And then give different flavors of the operating system, Android, which they let coders into, right? So all these people do all this work. It automatically becomes the largest platform on phones globally as well. Now, during this time period, they're working with entities like the National Security Council. Eric Schmidt and them are like a glove. I'm not sure if I have the book right here. I do. You know, for instance, you can see a lot of the predictions that came true in the last decade from Eric Schmidt and Jared Cohen's The New Digital Age, Reshaping the Future of People, Nations, and Businesses.
I love when you get all Richard Grove on us here. Grab those books, baby. Keep going.
Well, I mean,
I love it.
This is incredible. I mean, it tells you about the censorship on YouTube before it happens. You know, I actually read a random section months ago when I'm not sure if it's right here. Yeah, here. Would you like me to read it? It predicts.
Please do. Please do.
It predicts the what's going to happen with the censorship in YouTube, and it uses actually WikiLeaks as an example. So Eric Schmidt, and remember this time period, they get rid of Don't Be Evil. They start working with NASA on quantum computing and artificial intelligence. They claim supremacy in 2019. The list goes on. But let's read from this book. Moreover, due to technology companies' involvement in security threats, their products are being used by terrorists. The public will eventually demand that they do more to fight against extremism. A couple buzzwords there you might remember. This means not only improving their products and protecting users with strict policies regarding content and security, but also taking a public stand. Just as the capitulation of MasterCard and PayPal to political pressure in the WikiLeaks saga convinced many activists that the companies took sides, inaction on the part of technology companies will be considered indefensible by some. And this is the best part. Fairly or otherwise. So they admit we're going to do this whether it's fair or not. Companies will be held responsible for destructive uses of their products. Companies will reveal their personalities and core values according to how they rise to meet these challenges. Empty words will not pacify an informed public. So in other words, we're going to deplatform you and take away your money options. Yeah. And in the next breath, we can already see early steps in the direction at some companies make clear statements in policy or procedure. At YouTube, there is the challenge of content value. So basically it goes in to how they've already established these, but because of the algorithm itself, they couldn't do it in real time, but now they can. And it's all right here, pages 181 and 182.
It reminds me of Lockstep meets the World Economic Forum when they went to, I think it was, I can't remember where they went in the Middle East, when they were telling the leaders there how to censor people and how to take people down, right? And Lockstep, if you read Lockstep and you realize how it pretty much lined out what COVID was about, it's already there. This is planned. This is when you say a time of acceleration. When you say, what do you mean time of acceleration? They already had a plan in place, baby. And this is what they're doing right now to do it. It makes me want to talk to so many more people and so many more things. Answer this question, though, here. Give a little credence to this, because this ties into everything. All right, so now we understand this is what they want to do and stuff like that. They're putting their plan in place. But why don't the big names get the censorship that sometimes the little names get? Matt Weinglass, the homeless left, less than 3,000 people on YouTube, completely deplatformed, medical misinformation, not telling them why. Why does the small guy get the punishment and the big guy gets away with it?
Well, I think that, again, they don't want to amplify anybody. They want to make sure that there are no new quote unquote big guys that go viral with their information. It's only the people that do it again and again and again and again and again that can even remain relevant, right? Like, look at a Project Veritas. You know, love or hate James O'Keefe, he suffered massive censorship throughout all these different platforms, right? But was able to remain somewhat relevant by hammering things home 5, 6, sometimes 7 times a year, that things would have gone mega viral if it was fair, semi-viral. That's like sort of contained. And by the way, James O'Keefe, just like all of us, is imperfect. And he likes to play a lot of left-right baseball. If you notice, the people that usually, even if they're people like yourself, you still recognize as lefts. Dorr still recognizes as left. Guys like me that just literally every time I'm on a program and they try to put, I go, I hate all of them. I don't like any of them. I don't want to tag. We can talk about them in relative terms, but they're awful. Now, that being said, like somebody like a Jones, you know, I think that Jones is a force of nature, but obviously a super imperfect being, where they can point to his bravado. They feel like he's easier to discredit. Plus, he's not going away, but they're trying to take him off the air, right? Look at Dorr. same exact thing. Dore got just above that level where the mainstream media really had to start recognizing him. And they were saying, what, he aligns with white supremacists and he's gone far right and all these other talking points. They think they can contain that. RFK Jr., right? The slander is there, but at the same time, he's got a name. He can run for, you and I can't run for president. I hate to tell you, Pasta. We could try, but bro, we won't even be like the boot on the head guy. I hate to tell you. we're not those.
We can't be Vermin Supreme. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you got to have a catch in this thing. And now with the control over all these social media platforms and the algorithms in general, it is so hard to pierce that just one time. Forget about a multitude of times. I tell everybody, like I said, I actually hosted the 4th hour of Jones yesterday, right? You know what that'll get me? Like, I got millions of viewers for sure for one day and getting that voice out. And that's why I'm always going to take that opportunity. I'm lucky on the quote unquote X free speech platform to gain a couple hundred followers. Yeah. That's it. That's the max. And you know how amplified my tweets are. They're not amplified at all. And like, I mean, for instance, you look at somebody like Mario in the Fall, right? I don't necessarily dislike that guy, but there's a lot of mainline stuff that he's putting out there. He goes out with, a lot of the things that are hot in the headlines. I was able to do some spaces, etc. That's what they want, man. They want headlines. That's the other thing. If you on a consistent basis are constantly aggregating the headlines all the time, and you're not really delving between that surface level, God bless Dore for sure, right? Because he certainly talks about a lot of the real issues when we're talking about war or geopolitics or how the government works. But a lot of those are headline issues. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody here, Pasta, but they don't like a guy like me that's like going to read you the entire document that put Peter Daszak in that room so that he could give a deposition that none of the media talked about, right? And even the alternative media ignored. So that's a big issue. They don't want, like, it's so hard. Like I was telling you with Musk, it's so hard to find some of these source documents at this point. I've got to go to the DuckDuckGoes. Sometimes I'll go back as far as like webcrawler.com for a search engine, because the ones that are being promoted, aka the technopoly, the military industrial complex, are serving a certain narrative. And even if you have voices that stray from that narrative, sometimes they'd still like to keep you in that box. I'll give you a great example. Charlie Kirk, right? Certain things, I can't tell you how much I disagree with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is one of the few guys that will talk about the transgender to transhuman agenda and the connection there, right? I just found out today I've got Charlie Kirk on my program on Monday, and I'm going to talk to him about what we agree about and what we don't agree about, because he's also very anti-war and a voice there. At the same time, he's slinging vitamin pills on Fox News, right? And I'm not listen, I take a ton of supplements, and I'm not like crapping on that either. But there also has to be a certain integrity. Like, as much as some of the stuff I haven't even liked that Tucker's done since he's gone independent, right? Such as, for instance, having Kevin Spacey on, right? Like that bad move, Tuckins. Sorry, as Frank Underwood or otherwise, didn't love it. Helped his comeback tour. At the same time, I haven't seen Tucker hawk anything. Not a damn thing. And I'll say this. If all he's hawking is old school bow ties and flannel shirts that he's not selling, so be it. Like, there's a little bit more respect that goes with that, especially on that level, because he's independently wealthy. He doesn't need to hawk anything, right? That's a trust fund kid right there.
Yeah.
So, it's, and by the way, Tucker, there was only a certain amount that they could control on mainstream media. He was the number one show consistently. Eventually, they cut the line. And look, is he doing well on social media? Yes. Is he having the same impact that he had on television? I'm not sure. Jones likes to talk about how the views have been amplified. But what I want to remind people is that cuts of his show were already amplified and getting that kind of traction, right? And he was reaching the boomer crowd that's never going to be a scroll monster, that's never going to look at X or Twitter and all these other things. So I don't know. that that's a net positive, because he was bringing a lot of things that the 60 and over crowd are still oblivious to this day. So a lot of it's relative, man. I think there's a management system, right? We're moving into that age of AI. They've got a real clamp on censorship. And now when they can't claim deep fake, what do they claim? Cheap fake, which is basically a real video that you decide to cut 2 seconds out of and put a headline on that they don't agree with.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I think that you said it's a management system. I think that's important to point out, because I think there are names that they can't. I think that when it comes to Jimmy, when it comes to Max Blumenthal, when it comes to Kim Iverson, right? And Kim did the most work on a mainstream media platform possible, right? She was on the Hill. So her work, and I was looking at her work because we were doing it on Rockfin. Yeah. And, I even grabbed the clip today, and we're going to talk to Matt Weinglass why he got suspended. And one of the articles that came out by Slay was talking about how they lumped the partially vaxxed with the unvaxxed, right? And they called them the same. And therefore, they were able to change the whole narrative instead of where this is in the VAERS system, right? We're going to talk about that. But sticking on why the big names don't get censored as much, as I believe if they did censor Dor, right, and they have before, they did right out of the Israeli situation. He got a strike and was taken down. It amplifies their voice. There's too many followers there, right?
That's right.
Same thing with Kim. People like Mario on the Wall, though, I think it's different. That's an amplification of a voice who's going to say some of this stuff and put the people, he's going to be very pro-Ukrainian on issues. He's going to, he's going to mislead people and steer people the wrong way. They'll give them areas where they can talk about things, where they can win your trust. I often say about this, I talk about Steve Bannon, right? Yeah. He'll win your area of trust. He'll talk about COVID oh, hell yeah, okay, all right, all these things. But when it comes to certain other situations, he'll mislead you in a different way, the way he blames China on everything. So he'll even, in fact, manufacture consent for war. So, I mean, it is different. There is a management system. Before we get you out of here, Jason, I want to play this quick video, and I want to get your opinions on this too, because I think it was Ian Davis who told me, you got to watch where they're taking you, right? They'll gain your trust. The controlled release of information is already out there. They'll piggyback on there to gain your trust, and then they'll move the ship a different way. I think the Republicans somehow are doing that, and I want to point these things out because we talked about the hearing with Fauci. You just talked about it earlier. The Democrats kissing their ass. And that's why we got to do more COVID work. It ain't over. We got to get back on it right now, and we got to push out the facts out there. Because in this lawsuit, tip my hat to the Attorney General of Kansas, right? What's his name? Chris Kobach, for using Pfizer's own data against them. But where are they going? Are they going to actually change the system? It seems like they want a head on the platter. The same way they want Fauci, they want the Pfizer head on the platter, and they're not paying attention to the system itself. Play the really quick clip. Cheese Slice, we'll get to it. We're here with Jason Bermas, everybody. You know him, the Bermas Brigade. He's on TNT. He has his own show. Go follow him. Go watch him. You're watching Pasta to Go. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. Rockfin. Check us out. Play this video. Jason Bermas. We only got him for a limited amount of time. We'll be right back with him.
Pfizer marketed its vaccine as safe for pregnant women. However, in February of 2021, Pfizer possessed reports for 458 pregnant women who received Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine during pregnancy. More than half of the pregnant women reported an adverse event, and more than 10% reported a miscarriage, many within days of the vaccination. Pfizer also possessed information from its own October 2020 study on pregnancy in rats, indicating that its COVID-19 vaccine was likely linked to infertility, loss of litters, and stillborn offspring. Number two, safety relating to heart conditions like myocarditis. Pfizer consistently denied any evidence of a connection or safety signal between its COVID-19 vaccine and myocarditis or pericarditis. Indeed, on January 18th, 2023, when asked whether its vaccine caused strokes or myocarditis, Pfizer chairman and CEO Alan Berla stated, quote, "We've not seen a single signal, although we have distributed billions of doses," end quote. A signal that he was referring to as a safety signal, which refers to a negative consequence. However, as Pfizer knew, the United States government, the United States military, foreign governments, and others had found that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine caused myocarditis and pericarditis. Number three, effectiveness regarding variants. Pfizer also claimed that its COVID-19 vaccine protected against COVID-19 variants, even though data available at the time showed Pfizer's vaccine was effective less than half the time against variants. Finally, transmission. Pfizer urged Americans to get vaccinated in order to protect their loved ones, clearly indicating a claim that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccination stopped transmission of COVID-19. Pfizer later admitted that it had never even studied transmission of it after its recipients received the vaccine and whether they could say it stopped transmission. After making these misleading statements, Pfizer also engaged in some censorship attempts. Emails reveal that Pfizer officials coordinated with social media platforms to censor any speech critical of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine safety and effectiveness. It should also be noted that Pfizer elected not to join the federal government's vaccine development program known as Operation Warp Speed and declined that development funding. When asked about that, Pfizer's CEO, Albert Bourla, said Pfizer did not participate in the program in order to, quote, liberate, end quote, Pfizer's scientists and to avoid government oversight of its vaccine development.
All right.
He also said, quote, they want reports. I don't want to have any of that.
Okay, stop it right there because we got limited time with Jason. So I got some questions I want to ask Jason before he gets on out here. You can take that on us out of there. Jason, Pfizer. I get it that they used Freedom of Information Request Acts to get the information to use Pfizer's own data against them. Well, the one thing I missed was the heart conditions, right? The myocarditis, which is really important because that's been one of the biggest claims right out of the gate. But what was missed, and I think this was missed at the hearing with Fauci, shouldn't they be more concentrated on the ability, the way, in fact, that Pfizer was able to do the things they were able to do, the state capture itself, the way, you know, they were able to force upon mandates, you know, for this vaccine, the avenues in which they do. In other words, what I'm saying too is we talked about this at the top of the show. Shouldn't they be more concentrated on the system itself? That, you know, if it wasn't Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, and I really hope that other states go after Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, so we have different vaccines of different states going after them. But really, isn't it more about the system? Aren't the Republicans, at least, or the populist right, a little bit guilty of not paying to the system itself and going after the fraudster rather than the fraudulent system? Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, to me, a lot of this, unfortunately, not only has been limited hangout, but there has been no criminal charges. I think this is a good window. When you talk about Pfizer, I think you've got to read in between the lines. You notice the state attorney there talked about how they didn't want to, quote unquote, be under Operation Warp Speed. They knew damn well what they were doing. They were creating a plausible deniability circle for the military industrial complex, saying, see, that's on them, not on us. That circle seems to be fading, but like you said, I don't know that we're going to get any criminal accountability. I'm not convinced. And I'm going to say this. I had a private conversation with Andrew G. Huff, and this is where we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger, the EcoHealth whistleblower, about this very subject, about whether there was going to be any criminal accountability or how that would even occur and how do you restructure the system, especially since it's been militarized. And this is the ex-vice president of EcoHealth. He seems to think that there is going to be something that happens in the near future that he does not believe is hopium. That to me is maybe a possibility. And hopefully in the coming weeks, he said in July, he may be able to discuss this on the public record. This is also the author of The Truth About Wuhan. And he has made a large progression on what he used to talk about and how far he's come and what he thinks happened. Before I go, I do want to say this. I think you put the nail in the coffin of this video being taken down by YouTube just by playing that Kansas state attorney. I hope that I'm wrong. I got to run, Pasta, but I got an open spot on my show tonight in the first hour, 7:20 Central, if you want it.
What time is that Pacific?
5:20.
See you there. What are we talking about?
I will DM you a couple stories, my friend, and we'll see you tonight.
Last quick question, run out of here. I always go to see elections overseas so I can say, listen, this is what we need to do. We need to go back to transparency. I'm arguing that if they get some form of qualified immunity, that being big tech, where they can't get sued, they should have to show their homework open source. Agree or disagree?
I think everybody's got to show their homework on this one, bro. That's the problem. We have a classification system when something is militarized, where right there you have compartmentalization, you have the ability to lie to the public because it is a military operation. That was what Adept and Protect was. Okay, and when you look at a zombie company like Moderna, especially, it doesn't exist without the Defense Department and DARPA. That partnership is over a decade old. So we need all of this in the public arena. We got to stop pointing the finger at China or one institution or one individual. We have to go after the inner bureaucracy of the military industrial complex that allowed this to happen in the first place. I'll see you tonight, brother.
Thanks for getting this video taken down with that last statement. Jason Bermas, ladies and gentlemen. I am Craig Pasta Jardula. We'll be right back with Matt Weinglass. We're going to talk about decensorizing or censorship on the left. It happens there too as well. We'll be right back.